So yeah, like I mentioned, the first mod I'm going to go over here, and I think one of the most important ones is the real-time mod. Basically what it does is it changes the way the game works to have all of the citizens be real, in the sense that they're each their own individual person who wakes up, goes to work every morning, and then goes home at the end of the day. But they only do it with that much precision. They only will all do that at the right times and everything and give you a realistic rush hour if you have it set to all citizens are real. And that has the max of 65,000 citizens, which can be a drag, but there are ways I get around that I can talk about in future videos. And then there are the other settings that I use for the real-time mod. A lot of those are personal preference mostly, with the probability for what everyone does. You can tweak those as you go to get the traffic to flow the best way you think, but these are the settings that I use. And there are custom events for this. It helps with the sports games and all that. Those are quite difficult to get the traffic to work for, at least in my experience. I haven't set up public transportation yet. That's going to be one of the later things that I do in this game. But that's how I set up the real-time mod, and I think that is one of the most important ones. And in a future video, I will go over more of how I get around the limits that creates. Alright, so this next mod here is kind of related to the real-time mod in the sense that this is how I control how people commute to and from work. So to start in this mod, it's kind of a hidden thing. It's in that transport tab, but to start, I keep it at the legacy lifespans because that helps reduce the amount of seniors in the game, and that'll reduce the population that's not commuting to and from work during the rush hours. For speed, I pretty much leave it at default. And then I don't do death care in my cities because unfortunately I can't do that or health care and keep the realism the way I want, because any traffic at all will cause there to just be ambulances and hearses everywhere when you play with traffic despawning disabled. So that causes an issue where unfortunately I just can't use any hospitals or anything like that. I would love to, but if anyone knows a way around that, that would be great. But just the ambulances and everything, even with this sickness turned down, when I would put a hospital down, there would just be ambulances everywhere. And I even waited a while and let the game run, and it would still be that way. But as far as this transport tab, what it does is that first column there with the cars, that will determine what the percentage of people that are driving. And each spot there is for, so say like a teenager that's lower income, at the lower income bracket in this game, will be 35%. There will be a 35% chance that they'll drive to school. So I did have to lower it for teenagers because it was causing massive traffic jams at schools, and still, even at that level, it's pretty high. But I do keep the other ones up there higher, and you can basically change that to determine what percentage of people you want to drive. As far as that mod, that's really the most important thing, is that transportation tab. There is another mod I just wanted to mention. I don't change the settings of this mod really at all. They're pretty much the default settings, but realistic population allows me to have allows me to have a more sprawling city without having the population go up like it would in the vanilla game. So, for example, like one person or one household will exist in one individual house, not multiple like the default game, and that affects all buildings, and it affects how many people work places, but the default values seem to work pretty well for me for that one. Another great mod I'm sure a lot of you know about if you've been playing this game much and you like managing the traffic in this game is the Traffic Manager Present Edition mod. It has all these settings for the policies. Those are the ones I choose, and there are some reasons for that I'll go over here in a second, but I do keep the simulation accuracy at very high. There is a performance hit, but it seems like you need to do that to keep all the drivers driving well. And an important setting here is the dynamic lane selection. I've played with it a little bit, but 70% seems like a very good spot for it. Too many more, and you'll have everyone switching into the same lane to avoid a small backup, and any less, then it keeps people using one lane too much in some places. The rest of those settings there, more personal preference. I like the individual driving styles. It definitely gives a much better look to the city when people are driving at different speeds and all of that. For the policies, I leave at the top there the vehicles may enter block junctions on. Those bottom settings, the roundabouts and the priority junctions or priority streets, I don't use those. So if other people use those, they probably know more about it, and maybe I should try them out, but I haven't. I let them enter block junctions by default, and I change it if the intersection is having issues with that. That way you don't have people slowing down all the time or stopping to let one car go through the intersection and the next one, if there happens to be just one tighter intersection with a shorter segment afterwards. So the last mod I want to go over here is the Advanced Outside Connections mod. So you get to that mod's settings in a different way. It's in the little info view there, and then you click on that outside connections icon. But what you can do here is it lets you change the settings with incredible detail for every single outside connection. So this is one of the exits of the 101. I do have to split the highways in order to get the traffic to use all the lanes and to be heavier through the city. And that's something I'll talk about more in the video where I talk about how I design the freeways. But so these values for the entrance and exit of 101 are going to be the same here and on the north, or they're technically the same side of the map, but in this map, the north side, or as it's a north exit, they're going to all have the same values here. And then the Pacific Coast Highway ones are also going to have the same values on each side. And you can see that one has a little bit less traffic for some things and more for others. I just kind of did that to somewhat split up the trucks from the people. You see the trucks are still getting backed up by people coming in, but it helps to split it up, and it also helps if one of them has a little bit of a lull in the traffic coming like that one does. The other one usually doesn't at exactly the same time, so it keeps traffic heavier through the city. And in reality, that's, I think, more realistic, because traffic would be coming through that highway a lot, and then it makes so the rush hours kind of just bring it over the edge. You can see these other outside connections I have here. I like to have some smaller, much lower capacity outside connections that come in on a couple roads with traffic lights, because that also would happen. I'm not so sure about that island one. I might get rid of it, but I do like the one that goes in along that bay there. And on the mountain here I did redesign it, and the connection doesn't fit as well anymore, but I'm not sure what I want to do with the mountain at all yet. So that one may or may not stay, but those are the values I like to use for the outside connections on that mod. And I think that one is also one of the most important mods for getting the traffic realistic. Alright, well that's that for the mods that I use for managing the traffic in this game. Let me know if you have any questions about the mods I put in the spreadsheet, or if you think I should have gone over one of those mods in more detail here. I can make another video with the mods. I can also, I'm working on making a video about designing the freeways and how I design them and connect the lanes, and how I use the node controller and intersection marking mod to make it so so I can change the number of lanes easily even when everything's all detailed. I'm also going to be releasing a video before too long with just an overview of the city and showing what's done, what's not done, and some of how I designed it the way it is and why it is the way it is, with all the geography and everything being kind of weird for California. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want to see. I forgot to mention also, I don't really have a name for this city. I just named it after the area that I decided that it would be placed as far as the highway numbers and everything. So if anyone has any ideas, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.